Hello, hola, bonjour, mbote, comment ça va? Thank you so much for checking back my podcast. Welcome. Happy Mother's Day. Today is Mother's Day in the United States. So we're celebrating mothers, and in honor of Mother's Day, I wanted to talk about mother and daughter relationship. Lately I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, and I've been talking to a lot of friends, kids like me who grew up in this sort of multicultural setting, especially women, right? I've made a couple of interesting friends, and it's weird because I'm very picky about calling people my friends. So the fact that I'm comfortable with these girls and I'm calling them my friends is a big deal, because if you listen to my rant last time, you will know how hard it is for me to make friends. Not just like I meet people, I talk to people, but it's really hard for me to maintain friendship because I've always moved around, I've always wandered around. So I always felt like my friendship always had time limits, a delay with it, a deadline basically. But these girls, I'm very comfortable with them. They are career women. They're also Congolese. They're smart. They're beautiful. They are literally me. They understand my upbringing, right? It's so fun and cool to be with people who really understand you. Because sometimes when you're telling people your story, they can sympathize, but they cannot empathize, So it's really cool to meet people who walk your shoes. And one of the stuff that we were talking about is sort of like how being raised in a multicultural setting, the pressures that our parents had on us, right? The pressures that our parents had on us, especially our mothers, right? We're talking about how in African home, the girls, even though, so for example, us, because we're Congolese, even though we grew up outside of the Congo, our mothers specifically made sure we were connected with our Congolese culture, and they did not do the same thing for our brothers. And I always complain about this sort of favoritism that mothers have on the son over the daughters and everything. Part of my childhood was me kind of despising my brother because I felt like he could get away with things that I will never get away with. My brother can have tantrum, he can throw outbursts that I will never get away with. It never even crossed my mind to talk back to my mother. It never even crossed my mind to scream at my mother, to go off on her. But that boy would do it over and over again. And then the next time you will hear my mom be like, "Did you cook for your brother? Did you clean up after your brother?" And it was like, ma'am. So I've always kind of had like that jealousy a little bit, because I'm just like, oh, he can express himself, he can go off, he's allowed to have emotions, he's allowed to have something, but I cannot, because I'm a girl, I have to be quiet, I've always been trained to be sort of like composed and everything. And then when you even look at how the culture is passed down, it's mostly passed down to the daughters, right? From when you're younger to when you're growing up, your mothers are already training you to become a matriarch. I talked about this in a new blog post that I have out in how in my culture, mothers and daughters have a very close relationship, which having a close relationship doesn't mean it's a good one. Like, in the sense of like girls growing up, like for me growing up, I remember being in the kitchen with my mother from the time I was 6, right? Watching my mother cook, watching her cut onions, watching her wash clothes. Because, back then she washed clothes with her hands, right? She would hand wash everything. Watching her clean the house, and then I just started picking stuff up from her, seeing how she seasoned food. I was the family accountant. I was the family safekeeper. Like, my mother would tell me how much we had in the safe. I was the one that was hiding the safe for her. If she needed money, she would come to me and say, "Oh, Cynthia, like like I took out $10. How much is left?" Right? So from the young age, we are always with our mother, but for the purpose of being trained to become women. Because sometimes when people talk about close relationship, they talk about like, yeah, I'm open, I can tell my mother everything, na 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 na. That also comes later on when you're thinking of dating. Because I remember, like, as traditionally in the old days, like, after you hit puberty, they will sit you down and they will tell you, like, make sure a boy doesn't touch you, make sure this, make sure that, do not lose your virginity, wait until a man marries you before you lose your virginity. Now, my mother and I never had that part of the conversation, but we had it indirectly because she would show me movies that talk about it, and it was her way of telling me about it. Right? So we always had a close relationship, my mother and I, but that doesn't mean it's always been healthy. Like, a lot of, and it was interesting because I was speaking to my new friends about, like, family dynamics. We just started realizing that how, like, our mother and daughter's relationship were based on continuing traditions, because as girls we will become women and we will be the one that will continue the tradition of our families, that will bring honor to our families, because the boy doesn't bring honor to the family. It's usually the girl when she gets married, blah 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 blah. So it's very interesting because on one hand you're close, but you're close for what reason, right? Which is kind of weird, because on one hand it's good, because now that I live alone, I'm very appreciative of spending all those time in the kitchen with my mother, because I can cook and I can clean. And it's so funny because I find myself doing to my African friends what my mother's generation would do to me, right? For example, I met this girl 2 days ago. She was from Sierra Leone and she doesn't know how to cook. And I was like, girl, what kind of African girl don't know how to cook? And then she was like, I grew up here. I'm like, so did I. Like, what is wrong? And then she's like, oh, I didn't grow up with my mother. And I was like, don't you have aunties? No one taught you how to cook? So I started judging her and be like, what kind of woman are you, right? Because in our culture, it's like, those are the things that make you a woman. And you learn that through your mother, because the father is usually, like, not in the home. He's usually at work. He's usually in the farm, hunting and stuff like that. So the mother's job is to prepare you for when you will grow up, which is very interesting, because when you look at other cultures, it's like, oh, they prepare you to be your own person. But us in our cultures, like, we're getting prepared to be someone else's caretaker. I remember being a child and always just like, oh, like, you put too much salt, like, you're gonna mess up your husband's food. You did this, and you're gonna mess up your kids. Like, you need to do this because when you're gonna have kids. And I'm just like, I'm 8. Why do I have to think about this right now? Like, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? Why do I have to think about this right now? So you hear all of these anecdotes, and I realized telling this to my boyfriend, and I was like, I think because of those speeches, I did not really wanted marriage, because to me marriage felt like serving somebody else, because it was preached to me as like, you have to wake up at, like, a real woman wakes up at 5 a.m. to make sure she cleans the house. Back in Africa they would, like, sweep the courtyard, the family compound. And I'm like, listen, if y'all know how bad my insomnia is, I go to bed at 5 and I might wake up at 12. So you are talking to the wrong person. Based on those qualities, I do not match up. So those kind of speech made me was like, I don't want to end up like, I do not want to do this motherly, tirely work, because marriage sounds like work. And it's never told to you as him working for you, because yes, he's gonna bring money in, but he's not required to do anything else. And then so it was very like, so I have to wake up at 5. I have to wake up before him, cook for him, clean for him, take care of the kids, make sure if I have a daughter, she doesn't get pregnant as a teen, because in our culture, it's like, if a girl get pregnant as a teen, not only they kick her out of the house, they kick you out of the house as the mother. So in the Luba culture, when the girl gets married, the day of the wedding, your mother also packs her bags. If she goes to her husband and her husband finds her a virgin, your mother can unpack. if the mother if they go to her husband find her that she was not a virgin, that's the end of your mother's marriage. So you had this relationship where, so that's what the mother and the daughter had to have a very close relationship, so that they can be like, listen, please don't ruin my marriage. Please make sure you're good. Make sure no man touch you before you get married. Make sure you give honor to your to our family. Please don't disgrace me. Please don't do this. Please don't do that. And that's what the connection between a mother and daughter was, which is very weird, right? So a lot of our connections were based on passing down the tradition. Like your mother was responsible to prepare you for when you become a wife and when you become a mother. So it had nothing to do with like us building a bond, right? So it's funny because although my mother would have those like, you know, stuff, like sometimes if I had my period and it was hurting, she'd be like, oh, but when you get married, your husband's still gonna expect you to cook. And I would look at her, I'm like, I hope to God I don't get that kind of husband who'll expect me to suffer so that he can eat. I hope I don't. And so those kind of made me like, I don't want to be like your people, like your generation people. I don't want to be like your mindset kind of people. So I always felt like I was always rebelling against that. So my mother and I relationship got better when we started to get to know each other when I went to college, right? Because when I went to college, I was away from her. I was away from the constant chores that I needed to do, because it was required for me to do chores because I'm a woman, because I'm going to have to do chores in my marital home. I'm going to have to take care of my husband. I'm going to have to take care of my kid. They never told me about the part where my husband has to take care of me. Like, only he has to bring money home. And I'm just like, that's not all I need, right? And then, so when I went to college, I became appreciative of my mother, and I started having a real relationship, right? We started knowing each other as people. We started talking. That distance made us get to know each other, because in the house, I felt like we were bickering a lot, because we were just like, I don't want to continue this. And my friends also told me the same thing, how the relationship got better once they got away, because now, because of this separation, and I'm not so enthralled in you preparing me for the future, I'm making my own future, but then I have to tell you about it, right? I have to tell you about it because we are close. We've spent so much time together from childhood until I'm 18. We're very close. For what reason? That's up to debates, but we're very close. So now I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to class. Oh, I did this today. What did you do? Oh, Mom, what do you like to do? Oh yeah, I went to New York. Do you want to go to New York? So my mother and I started traveling together. Our first trip together was to New York City. And it was kind of fun to kind of be her guide. And one of my proudest moment is being able to gift her a ticket to go to Paris, right? I bought her a ticket to go to Paris for my 25th birthday. We went to Barcelona. Then for her birthday, we went to Milan and Rome. And in those moments was like, she was relying on me, because I love to travel. I'm good at directions. My mother swears she's not good at direction at all, until you tell her she made a wrong turn, and then she starts being like, but I'm the driver. I know where I'm going. But then when we go to another country, this woman act like she can't read signs. She'd be like, but they're in Italian. I'm like, I don't speak Italian either, but I'm making my best, right? But she will swear she doesn't know how to read direction when we're in another country. So I'm her guide. So I'm her interpreter. I'm the one. So then she becomes a child and I become the mother, you know? And then through those interactions, we get close as two people trying to get to know each other. Right? And it's so funny because, like, I don't know if that happens with mother and daughters. I think in Africa it's also the same thing, when mother and daughters, like when the daughter become older and then she's in her marriage, the mother will come in to help with the kid, will help with so I guess they become closer. and everything. But for me, I feel like there's a difference because I feel like now I know my mother as a person and not just as somebody who was trying to like train me to become someone else's wife. So I get to know her as a person. We get to travel together. We get to do, and then I've learned to appreciate her because if she did not teach me how to cook, how to clean, not that I'm living by myself, I would not know how to do that. I remember when I went to France, I went with a friend who did not know how to cook and clean for herself. And this girl was struggling. And I was looking at her like, girl, your mama didn't teach you nothing? Your mama didn't teach you to clean? She called me one time because she clogged the sink. And she didn't know what to do. And I'm just like, interesting. And she was in her 20s too. I'm like, wow, you... Interesting. What were you and your mother doing when you were a kid? What were you guys doing? Now I'm judging your relationship, even though my childhood used to piss me off because my mother would be like, sit here, make sure you see how I cook. And I'm like, I want to go play, I did get to play. Like, I'm not going to say I didn't get to play, but there was also a lot of like moments of like, you have to clean the dishes, you have to mop the floor, you have to do this, like I was my mother dishwasher, vacuum and everything, So growing up and being able to be independent, because those chores used to feel like I needed to do them for somebody else, right? For my husband, for my kids, for my house, for my marital house. And then when I moved out and I lived on my own, I'm starting to realize that these chores are also for me. It's for me to keep my house clean. It's not just about keeping my husband's house clean. It's my house, I don't want to live in a shitty place, right? I want to clean after myself. I know how to cook. I save a lot of money from cooking for myself and everything. I love cooking for others. I love sharing my culture I love sharing my culture with others through cooking. I remember stories. Those moments of frustration now have become good memories for me because I'm just like, oh, when I was younger, when my mother would teach me how to cook, she would tell me stories about my grandmother that I never met. She would tell me stories about the time she learned how to cook. So it was also a moment of her passing down my tradition, my culture. Like I got to learn about Congolese value, Congolese women's value, right? Because we do have a lot of great things in the Congolese culture and everything, So I got to learn Congolese music. That's how I got to learn Lingala. A lot of recipes that I cook, I only know them in Lingala. I don't know how to translate them in English or in French. Like sometimes I would tell somebody, be like, what's that? Be like, that's fumbwa. What is it? I have no idea how to say it in English or French. I only know it in Lingala because my mother only taught me this in Lingala. And it's just so interesting how the African mother and daughter dynamic is very unless you take the time to reflect about your relationship with your mother, because sometimes we think that white people or the Westerners are better parents than our parents and everything. And I think I used to think that way when I was a child. I used to be like, my white friends don't have to do this. My white friends, they play outside. They're not slaving around in the house. They're not cooking. They're not cleaning. They're not doing anything. You are the mother. You're supposed to clean. Why do I have to clean? Like, am I the housemaid? So we used to think that, the Western the Western mother was more loving, was more caring, was more this than our African mothers. And the truth is, that's not the case, right? Because our African mothers were teaching us the ropes based on what they knew, right? Based on our culture. I am dating a Nigerian man. He's not a white man, right? There are roles that we both gonna have to play in this relationship, of course, right? I live by myself. If I did not know how to cook, I'll be struggling. I'll be spending so much money eating out and having somebody come to my house and sweep my house when I can do it myself. So the conclusion that I came up with, especially talking to my friend, although we hated our childhood and then we kind of hated how our mother dragged us everywhere in order to prepare us for this task that we're supposed to do 20 years down the road. I am appreciative of my mother. I'm appreciative of my African mother. I love her. I'm thankful. And I told her that today, because you don't want to wait when somebody dies and then you start appreciating what they did, So to all the mama out there, especially my African mama, we're sorry for thinking you guys were crazy. To be honest, you guys are crazy. And to be honest, not that I am in my late 20s and I'm thinking about motherhood, my kids are also going to say I was crazy. So it is what it is. Happy Mother's Day. I hope you guys enjoyed this reflection piece. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.